The Aldis podcast is brought to you by Aldis International, supplying your expert AI and digital transformation staffing needs across the US and Europe. Today, you are listening to our AI in Action series, where leading minds in AI from across the world share their story, success, and advice. AI in Action cuts through the hype and explores the true impact of artificial intelligence in our world today.
You're listening to AI in Action. I'm your host, JP Valentine. Our guest today is Jeff Seibert. Jeff is the co-founder of Digits. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Jakey, it is so great to be here. Thank you for having me.
We're delighted to have you. So Jeff, we've got a lot to cover, but let's start with yourself, please. Can you give us a bit of an overview of your background? Talk us through your journey in technology and what's led you to where you are today as the co-founder of Digits.
Oh man, it's been a long journey in technology. I taught myself how to program when I was 12 and fell in love with it basically from day one. And so I have just tried all sorts of things, writing desktop software in the 90s, writing web apps in the early 2000s, then getting much more into systems engineering and big data. And sort of over that time started 3 companies now, the first one right out of college, and got fortunate and sold that company to Box. Then started another business called Crashlytics, the mobile performance space, and we ended up joining Twitter in 2013. And then Digits is the new project. Started the company in 2018, and we're off and running.
Amazing. Yeah, so obviously a great background and a combination of your own startup experience, but then working under one of the biggest brands across technology in Twitter, and here you are now again launching another business. So tell us all about Digits. What do you guys do? What's the mission of the organization? And then we'll walk through the journey from when you guys first launched to where you are today.
Yeah, so the idea for Digits came out of our prior experience. My co-founder Wayne and I, through the journey of Crashlytics, had this realization of the varying quality of software applied to different sides of the business. So what I mean by that is when you're building a product, you have amazing analytics. Let's say you have Google Analytics, you have A/B testing tools, you have performance monitoring, you have all of these live dashboards that make it so easy to understand what your customers are doing, who's using the product, and what's happening all in real time. And then, of course, as we had to focus on the business side, the finance side of the company, it's a completely different landscape. The software is all pretty basic, very tedious to use. And you're sitting there as a business owner waiting weeks at the end of each month for your financial reports, for your income statement, for your balance sheet. And it struck us that that was crazy. Like by the time the month is halfway finished, I'm no longer worried about March. I'm worried about May. And so we started Digits with a really simple premise. Could we build a real-time finance dashboard and a suite of real-time finance tools for business owners and their accountants?
Yeah, as somebody who has to sit in those meetings, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's quite an obvious problem to anyone who's been in that situation before. So great to hear that you're tackling it. So walk us through it when you first launched back in 2018 to the current version of the business and the growth along the way and what it's like now day to day.
It has definitely been a journey. So the idea was simple. It turns out it's way easier said than done. And there's a reason finance software has struggled to become real time. And that's because you have to make meaning from a lot of data, from a lot of different sources, and it's very messy. And so one of the big things we realized in starting the company was we couldn't ask these small business owners to completely change what they were doing. There's other companies in the space that have decided, oh, you need to fire your accountant. You need to completely change your accounting software. And we looked at that, and as business owners ourselves, we were like, we're never going to do that to adopt a product. Anything we use needs to fit fluidly into our existing workflows. And so with Digits, we sit directly on top of your existing accounting software. Usually it's QuickBooks in the US right now. And we sit directly on top of your existing accountant's work. And so you change nothing. Digits takes literally 2 minutes to sign up for. You go and link your accounts and you're done. And we pull all the data in from the background. We apply tons of machine learning models and algorithms to understand your business. And then we're able to deliver you this dashboard experience that makes it super visual and intuitive what's going on.
Can you talk to us about the role that AI and data science and analytics plays in Digits and its platform, and how your customers benefit from that technology?
Yeah, it is a fundamental role. It's really the core of the product. And it's as you look at data science problems and AI problems, actually the models are the end of the process. It really starts with trying to get clean data. And so for the first 2 years of Digit's life as a company, we were in heads down R&D mode with our engineering team, just pulling in, ingesting all the data for these businesses and understanding what it was and where the value was and what it meant. And so if you look at the accounting and bookkeeping space today, the vast majority of transactions are still hand entered. And as a result, mistakes are inevitable. There are typos, there are honest mistakes, there's oversights. And so we've spent a lot of time learning these patterns and what to look for in order to really clean the underlying financial data of the business that then we can feed into our models. And so we end up applying about a dozen different algorithms, both a combination of deep learning models and heuristics, data science, statistical analysis, et cetera, in order to understand your data from all these different angles. And that's really the core focus of our engineering team. And then it's how do we visualize and expose that information in a way that's intuitive to the business owner without assuming they have a deep background in finance.
Jeff, you and I were speaking before we started the interview about the next phase of growth, and you guys have obviously had a lot of success over the past 4 years, culminating in your recent Series C. What impact is that going to have to the current team and where you expect to grow the business, in particular the engineering and data science team?
Definitely. We're very honored to get the recent backing of SoftBank, which led our Series C with Digits, as well as Harry Stebbings at 20VC. Both really amazing investor groups. We've spent a ton of time with each of them. And what that allows us to do is focus on the long term. As we've just talked about, there's a lot of complexity in the finance space. And this allows us to really invest in our engineering and product and design teams in order to build out the full feature set that we envision for Digits. And so we're looking at doubling the team over the course of the next year. We're really intentional about how we recruit and how we scale our team. We don't want to enter a sort of unnecessary hypergrowth mode where there's a lot of uncertainty, extra meetings, lots of confusion and miscommunication. So our goal is to sort of grow steadily but surely over the next 12 to 18 months and double our engineering team to around 40 people.
Jeff, one of the things you and I were speaking about off air was your move to fully remote before the impact of COVID, and that's played a pivotal role in helping you guys be consistent and grow throughout all the craziness that happened during the pandemic. Can you talk about why you made that decision to be a remote first company back then and how it's paid off for you?
Yes, and this was a big decision. So we started Digits in the spring of 2018. And we decided from day one that we would go fully remote. And this was really informed by my co-founder and I's experience. So at Twitter, I became head of consumer product in 2016 and ended up having teams in 11 plus offices around the world. And while it's so great to work with people across the world, you also quickly realize the frustration that brings in constantly having to travel between offices, having to understand what projects get allocated to which office, and that causes political drama, people feeling like second-class citizens because they're not at HQ. And having seen all that firsthand, Wayne and I really talked about we either needed to build Digits under one roof or we should have no roofs. We didn't want this second-class citizen effect. And it really quickly became obvious to us that we couldn't build the scale and style of company we wanted in San Francisco. Recruiting for great talent is just far too competitive, and there's great talent everywhere. It would be a big disservice to the company. And so we decided from day one we were going to go fully remote. And in 2018, that was not a common choice. And actually, even some of our early investors were very surprised and questioned that. But in retrospect, it was absolutely essential to build the company. And so today we're actually across 11 states, all across the US. We also have people we work with in Mexico and South America. And it's really been magical. One of which, of course, is we were able to avoid a lot of the confusion and drama that set in due to COVID, but also allows us to really find great people wherever they are and have this great fluid culture of live collaboration across the company while giving everyone the flexibility they need to live their lives and be with their families and so on.
You are listening to the Aldus Podcast. When you're looking to scale your team, or if you are interested in showcasing your company in a future episode, reach out today. Or if you're in the market for a new role, visit our website to view open positions, www.aldus.com.
Exciting. We'll come back to the team growth in a little bit, but I want to talk about impact for your customers and is to give us a visual of customer journey from the problem that they have when they come to you with a situation, the steps that it takes to implement the platform, and what's the end impact for the customers. Is there a recent example that you could share with us which will help us visualize that journey?
Yes, totally. And so when we look at our customer base, there's two big segments of it. One is the business owners that I was talking about that really want a better, more real-time understanding of how their business is doing. And then the other is the accounting firms that have really been starved for modern technology and tooling in order to better serve their clients. And so one of the things that we've just been so happy to see is we have been inundated with signups from accounting firms recently. And they've seen what we've built. And we had this great quote from one of them saying, "Oh my gosh, this will save me 3 to 4 hours per month per client when I'm doing the analysis of their books." And so if you put yourself in an accountant's shoes for a moment, they've spent all month organizing the data, entering all the transactions, going through the closing process to close the books for the month. And now they have to deliver to the client. And so when they're putting together the final reports each month, they're looking for these insights that they can point out so that they can really add value to the client's business and encourage them to focus on what matters. Maybe it's marketing spend or payroll costs or revenue. Maybe some customers are about to churn, et cetera, et cetera. And so one of the big things we do, because we have such a thorough understanding of the data, is we surface automatic insights for the accountant that they can then add to these reports, add visuals, add really simple charts of top customers or largest vendors. And that allows them to tell the story they're looking to tell each month without them having to do all the tedious math under the covers.
Amazing. When you think of how many accounting firms are out there from various sizes, that the market share opportunity is absolutely massive. I want to bring it back now to the growth that you expect, because you guys have had a remarkable journey over the past 4 years since you've launched, and it really feels like you guys are only getting started. And with the new surge of funding with Series C, the next phase of growth is ahead. When you look at the growth roadmap, and particularly focusing around the technology and engineering side, when you're speaking to candidates about Digits as a place to work, what is it that you tell them to get them interested in and excited about this mission over some of the other opportunities available to them?
As you look at sort of the history of Digits so far, we spent the first couple of years in really stealthy R&D. Our website actually for those 2 years said almost nothing. And we were really focused on getting the underlying technology right. And now, as we've announced this round, we recently did a big launch of our newest product called Digits Reports. We're starting to see a lot of customer traction. And that is super exciting for the team. And so when we're talking with new, it's the opportunity to really see this inflection point and go from an R&D project to a one with scaling usage and constantly inbounding customers, adding new features, quickly responding to issues. And that to me is the joy of startup. If you're looking for a very stable, just like long roadmap, here's what we're going to do in 3 quarters engineering role, there are plenty of companies for that. But there's very few that are in the middle of that inflection point right now that are rapidly responding to customer feedback and iterating the product. And that's what I love about building software, is just the constant interaction with customers. We're doing multiple customer interviews a week, getting their feedback, tweaking the product. We ship about 20 times a day. And so it's a really fast-paced, fun, high-energy culture to be a part of on the engineering side.
Jeff, when you look ahead for the next phase of growth for Digits, what are you particularly most excited about when you think of what's next?
Yeah, the big milestone we'll have going forward is rolling out pricing. So Digits today is still free, actually, because we've been building it with a really great group of accounting firms. And then we're going to announce pricing later this year. And that'll be, of course, a big transition for the company, a lot of work on the back end to make sure we get that. And we're very fair with how we think about it, and we're delivering the appropriate amount of value. So that'll be a big milestone for us.
Jeff, thank you so much for coming on today. Really appreciate you sharing your own background, talking about the idea behind Digits and the phenomenal growth that you and the company have experienced over the past 4 years, and the exciting next chapter that lies in store for you guys with this new round of funding. It sounds like a great place to work for anyone who's interested in engineering, technology, and the use of AI for practical use. So we wish you, the team, and everyone at Digits the best of luck in the year ahead.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This was really fun. And for those listening, if you run a business or if you're in finance, would love your feedback on our product, would love your feature requests and ideas, you can check us out at digits.com.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Aldus Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any Android podcast of choice. You can also head over to our website, www.aldus.com, to listen to more podcasts, view our open roles, and stay up to date with industry news. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more great episodes coming very soon.